What was the first adult book that you can remember reading? Can you still remember your first adult book? If you can, you might like a go at this tag. Hi everyone, welcome back to Wilde Reads. My name is Dave. Welcome back to another video. Now this video is not the video that I was going to make. It's morphed into something quite different from which I first imagined it. I was going to make a video on just talking about the first adult book that I can remember reading, or the first adult book that I read. But I thought, why not take it one step further and create a tag out of it? So that's exactly what I've done. The last original tag I made was the partners tag, and that went on to do quite well. In fact, it's still my most viewed video. So I thought I'd create another one, and this is to be called the first adult book tag. There is a series of questions. I think I've got 10 questions here for it. I've got them written down on a sheet of paper. I think there's going to be about 10 questions in this. But as with my first original tag that I created, the partners tag, feel free to play around with any of these questions. These are not set in stone. You can adapt this tag as you see fit. In true tag tradition, I will be tagging a few people at the end of this tag to have a go at it. So, question 1. What was your first adult book called and who wrote it? Now, I should say right at the start, if you can't remember your first adult book, if it's so long ago or it just wasn't that good and you can't remember it, then just use the first adult book that you can remember reading. Question 1. Who wrote it and what was it called? It was called The Magic Cottage, and it was by an author called James Herbert, who is sadly died in 2013, so is sadly no longer with us. And I read this book in 1986 when I was about, I think I was about 13 or 14 at the time, and I just felt it was time to read an adult book for a change. I'd sort of grown out of Enid Blyton books by that stage, which I was reared on. So question 2, what made you choose this book? Well, my brother, because obviously we were both living at home, my brother was a huge Stephen King fan. Now, Stephen King in the 80s released some of his best works, and I remember my brother's bookshelf had them all lined up. But I didn't want to be a copycat. I didn't want to just read what he was reading just for the sake of it, even though he was saying that the books were really good. I knew Stephen King was an American author, and I wanted to read something British. I wanted to read something by a British author. So I noticed on the bookshelves below he had a collection of books by this guy called James Herbert, who I'd never heard of. Well, it turns out that James Herbert was sort of the British version of Stephen King for fans of horror fiction. So that's entirely why I chose it. I think I took the book off the shelf and I remember reading the blurb, and it seemed really, really good. And in fact, I don't own the book anymore. I used to own it, but I don't own it anymore. So let me just read you the blurb on the back of that book. The Magic Cottage is another classic from the master of horror, James Herbert. A cottage was found in the heart of the forest. It was charming, maybe a little run down, but so peaceful. A magical haven for creativity and love. But the cottage had an alternative side. The bad magic. What happened there was horrendous beyond belief. So that sort of, that reading that blurb as a young teenager really sort of drew me in, and I thought, oh, I didn't particularly pick the horror genre, but something about that book appealed to me, and I remember absolutely loving it. And I remember reading, it was summertime in 1986, because I've got a memory of reading it in the garden on the patio on a bright summer's day. So it was summer 1986. So on with the next question. Question 3, what genre is it in? So it's horror fiction. Question 4, do you still read that genre now? No, I have read a few Stephen Kings over the years, and I do own Justin Cronin, The Passage, which is sort of modern day horror. But no, I don't get drawn to the horror genre anymore. Question 6, is the book still in print? Yes, it is, very much so. Along with the rest of James Herbert's books, they are very much still in print, and I will link a copy of this book down below. Question 7. Did you go on to read anything else from the same author? Yes, I did. After I'd read The Magic Cottage, I read a few of his. I read The Fog, which I think they turned into a film as well. And I read, there's a trilogy of books called the Rats trilogy, and I think it's Rats, which is a small book, Lair, which is slightly bigger, and then the third book in the trilogy is called Domain, which is a great big fat chunkster. And I remember reading those, and I remember being literally terrified reading those, because it's about rats, it's about killer rats. And I do remember a guy, one of the heroes in the book, I think his name's Harris. So yes, I remember reading that. I read, what else did I read? I think I read Fluke. Yes, so I did go on to read quite a few more of James Herbert's books. Question 8. Have you reread the book since? No, I did come across it years and years ago. It was down in a seaside town that we've got in England called Broadstairs, and I came across a second-hand bookstore, and down in the basement they had this big spooky basement that was full of books and full of bookshelves, absolutely rammed to the roof with books. And I went down the stairs and I came across a hardback edition of this book, and I bought it. It was about £2.50 with a view to rereading this book, and also I wanted a copy of this first book that I read. I wanted a physical copy of it, and this was a hardback, so I bought it, but I can't find it, so I don't think I've got it anymore. I think I may have unhauled it at some point over the years. I am on the lookout for another copy of this book, because I do want to own it again. Question 9. Did you like it then, and do you like it now? It's difficult to say, but yes, I loved it then. I would have given it, if I'd have been star rating on Goodreads then, I would have given it 5 stars. So I absolutely loved it then. It does intrigue me to read it again, and a part of me wants to read it again just to relive it, but another part of me is thinking, oh, if I read it again and I don't like it, is that going to spoil the memory of reading it first time round? I don't know if that's a bit silly. But yes, I do want to read it again, and I do plan to, probably this year. I'm going to get a copy of it this year and reread it, and I might make a follow-up video later in the year just to see how I got on with it and how much of it I remember. Does it feel like a new book again? Because it's what was 1986? 32 years ago. 32 years ago. Wow. And question 10, who do you tag? Well, who do I tag in this video? I want to tag Peg. Peg, the book prize addict over in the States, because Peg's had a whole lifetime of reading books. So I'd love to see if she remembers the first book that she read. Brian from Brian's Bookshelves, Sean from On the Stoop, Will the Bald Book Geek, who else? Charlie Heathcote. Who else do I tag? Who else do I? In fact, anyone who wants to do this tag, please jump on this tag and record a version of your own. As I said before, you can play around with the questions a little bit if you want to, and you can take away any questions you don't like and add some questions that you want to include. But yes, please have fun with this tag and have fun remembering your first adult book. And that's it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again very soon for another BookTube video. Whatever you're doing this week, enjoy your books, and I'll see you very soon for another BookTube video. Until then, take care. Bye bye.